I used to think respect was optional when love was guaranteed. If a man loved you enough, you could push the boundaries, test his patience, say the dramatic thing for effect, and he would swallow it because the relationship mattered more than any sentence. That's the self-serving fairy tale I told myself right up until the night I said the line that burned everything down: "You're not man enough for me." I didn't say it in a private argument we could have fixed with an apology. I said it at my sister's engagement dinner, in front of my entire family, after 2 glasses of wine and a lifetime of bad habits. The table went quiet so abruptly that even the candles seemed to shrink. Nathan didn't raise his voice. He didn't slam his fist or make a scene. He just set down his fork like you do when you realize the meal is over and said, "I'm sorry you feel that way," with the kind of calm that felt like a door closing without a slam. If you need to know who he was before I made a villain out of him, Nathan was steady, decent, and unembarrassed by kindness. He volunteered on Saturdays at a youth center teaching kids how to fix bikes. He called his mother every Sunday. He installed shelves for my grandmother without making it an identity. He knew the names of my coworkers because he listened when I vented. He didn't try to control me, he tried to make space. The thing about space is that if you're insecure, you can mistake it for indifference. My ex before Nathan, let's call him Reed, was the controlling kind, the one who made every choice an arm wrestling match. After Reed, I told myself I wanted a partner who would never raise his voice. Nathan never did. But a quiet partner requires you to be responsible with your volume, and I liked hearing myself too much. The dinner where I detonated us was supposed to be a celebration. My sister Grace got engaged to a human golden retriever named Lucas, who brought flowers for the waitstaff because the restaurant was understaffed and he thought they needed cheering up. We were at a long table by the window, the kind where families make small talk and assign seats. My aunt told the story of her proposal for the 50th time, my father did the marriage is a team sport speech he loves, and then the conversation turned to alpha men because Grace's friend Carly said something about Lucas being a provider and I rolled my eyes too obviously. "A provider?" I said, half laughing. "What does that even mean in 2025? Alpha is just marketing." I meant it as a dig at the concept, not at Nathan, but then my cousin Tim. 2 beers into a personality. Asked Nathan if he lifted, like that's the only metric, and Nathan laughed and said, "Not more than my job requires," and Tim flexed and made a joke about real men, and everyone chuckled because people chuckle at bad jokes when they don't want to be the wet blanket. I should have left it. Instead, I said the line that climbed out of my insecurity and sat in the center of the table: "Honestly, Nate isn't man enough for the kind of life I want." The fork, the quiet, the candle shrinking. Nathan's expression didn't change, but my mother's did. Grace's smile flickered. Lucas squeezed her hand under the table like he was sending Morse code for "Don't engage." Nathan said his gentle sentence and asked the server for the check. On the way home, I braced for a fight. Fights reassure you there's still something to salvage. He didn't fight. He drove with his hands at 10 and 2, turned on his blinker half a block early like a responsible person, parked, and said, "We can talk tomorrow. I'm going to stay at Ben's tonight." "You're overreacting," I said, because when you're wrong you reach for the word that makes the other person small. "I'm drawing a boundary," he said. "There's a difference." He packed a bag like he was trying not to wake a sleeping child. He left his set of keys on the hook and took the spare. The next morning there was a text, "I'll be by at 3 to grab a few more things." No paragraphs, no pleading. You can tell when a person who loves you has turned the dial from fix to finish. For a week I tried to sell the idea that this was a blip. I sent him a voice note that sounded like an apology but was really a negotiation. I baked banana bread and left it with a sticky note that said, "For your students," because I wanted to remind him I supported his goodness. He replied, "Thank you." They liked it. He did not say, "Come over." When we finally sat down in the living room on a Thursday, his backpack by the door like a punctuation mark, he didn't give me a speech. He asked me 3 questions. 1. What did you mean? 2. How long have you felt it? 3. If a man said that about you at a dinner, would you stay? I opened my mouth and heard my old self. The self that defaults to clever before honest. Start to draft a defense about wine and jokes and the patriarchy. Then I closed it. I said, I was insecure and wanted to sound big, which was both true and insufficient. He nodded like a teacher who knows you studied the wrong chapter but appreciates the attempt. I don't want to be with someone who needs to make me small to feel big, he said, and I had no counter-argument because that sentence is a fact all by itself. He did not rage. He did not list my sins. He said he would send separation papers, friendly, fair. He asked if I wanted the kettle or the toaster. I said kettle, he said toaster. It felt like drafting a treaty after a war where the only casualty was dignity. My friends split the way friends do when nuance is exhausting. Carly said I dodged a bullet because men like Nathan are boring, you'll thank yourself later. Grace said, you blew up a bridge and you're pretending you lost a map. My mother brought over frozen lasagna and asked if I wanted to talk about childhood, a sweet insult that landed. Meanwhile, life moved. Nathan moved out of the apartment and into a sunny one-bedroom closer to the bike co-op. He didn't unfollow me, because he doesn't perform pettiness, but he stopped viewing my stories. He still texted my father happy birthday. He still sent Grace a congratulations when she posted her engagement photos. He was the kind of man who doesn't let my behavior edit who he is. 3 months after the dinner, I saw him at the farmer's market. He was with a woman I didn't recognize. Tall, curls pulled back, hands stained with what looked like ink or paint. They laughed about something to do with peaches being liars when they smell ripe but bruise like fruit with opinions. I pretended to examine radishes while I eavesdropped like a villain. Later that day, my phone pinged with a photo in the family chat, Grace at a community health fair, smiling next to a table with free blood pressure screenings and a bike repair for kids sign. In the corner of the frame, Nathan and the curly-haired woman handing a 7-year-old a helmet. Grace texted me privately, her name is Priya. She's a PA at the clinic. Don't be weird. I was, of course, immediately weird. I clicked what profiles I could. No thirst traps, no performance. Priya's feed was 3 things, terrible photos of excellent food she'd cooked, close-ups of book pages with underlines, and flyers for free screenings or neighborhood cleanups. Her captions were earnest and typo-free. She used commas correctly. The comments under her posts were not a cartel of admirers, they were neighbors saying thanks again for Saturday and the lentils were perfect. It took me too long to realize what that meant. She existed in a place where being useful was more attractive than being seen. The first time I had to be in the same room as them was at Grace's bridal shower. I almost begged out, but my mother said, "You're not the injured party, dear," in a tone that managed to be loving and surgical. When Nathan walked in with a bouquet and a box of pastries from the bakery that's always sold out by 8:15, he greeted everyone with the same gentleness he never withheld. Priya came in a few minutes later after her shift, hair soft at the edges from a day under a mask, and immediately started moving chairs without being asked. I told myself I was watching objectively as an anthropologist. Then I heard my aunt whisper, "She's lovely," and my stomach did a slow, humiliating turn. At the gift table, Grace needed scissors for ribbon. I stood there looking around like someone who didn't know what a drawer was. Priya reached into her tote and pulled out a tiny pair of folding scissors, smiled, and said, "I keep these because hospital tape is my sworn enemy," and everybody laughed in that unforced way that happens when someone's timing is kindness and not cleverness. Later, when we were cleaning up, a flower arrangement tipped and water ran toward the edge of the table. Priya grabbed a stack of napkins, dammed the flood with the efficiency of someone who hates mess because mess steals time, and said, "Sorry, reflex," and suddenly I understood why people adored her. She solved the problem before narrating it. I wish I could tell you I applauded. What I did was smaller and pettier. I cornered Nathan by the coffee urn and said, "So, this is serious?" like a person auditioning for a role she'd already lost. He looked at me the way you look at a familiar street you no longer live on. "It's respectful," he said. "And calm." I, queen of the dramatic line, had nothing. Respectful. Calm. Two words I'd framed as synonyms for boring until I lost them. The engagement party for Grace and Lucas was a backyard affair with string lights and children losing their minds over a sprinkler. Nathan and Priya arrived with folding tables from the clinic because the rental company had messed up. They didn't announce the rescue, they just made the party possible and then blended into it. When someone spilled sangria on a white dress, Priya whisked the woman into the laundry room, worked magic with club soda, and came back to the party like she'd run an errand. "Everyone loves her," my cousin whispered. It wasn't said with malice. It was an observation. That phrase began to follow me like a truth I couldn't outrun. At the youth center, parents asked Nathan if Priya could speak to teens about health careers. She said yes and brought snacks that were somehow both affordable and devoured. At a community board meeting about making a dangerous crosswalk safer, Priya showed up with crash data and a petition. Nathan brought a model of a bike lane he'd built out of cardboard. The proposal passed. At my grandmother's birthday, Priya sat with her and asked about the recipe book we all ignored. A week later, my grandmother's handwriting appeared on a photocopy of the pierogi recipe we thought we'd lost. "She's the only one who asked," my grandmother said, not unkindly. "If you're waiting for a scandal that proves she was secretly awful, I can't give it to you." I looked for it. I inspected for cracks. What I found were seams, two people whose patterns matched. Strangers started telling me, as if they were doing me a kindness, "You know, Nathan seems so happy," and I learned there are sentences that land like an invoice. The day I finally made my apology to Nathan wasn't cinematic. It was a Tuesday, the kind that smells like overripe fruit in summer and asphalt in the afternoon. I asked if we could talk. He met me at a coffee shop near the clinic between shifts. He was 5 minutes early. I was 10 minutes late because I still, somehow, haven't stopped performing my own importance. I said what I should have said months before without blaming the wine or my childhood or the culture. I said, "I disrespected you because I was insecure and loud, and it was easier than admitting I didn't know how to be loved quietly." "I'm sorry." He said, "Thank you," and meant it. He didn't rescue me from the consequence of the sentence I'd said. He didn't offer a door back into a life I'd made unsafe for him. He told me he hoped I'd be okay. He told me he was getting married in the fall. I didn't cry there. I waited until I got home and sat on the floor like people do when there's no furniture that can hold them. The wedding was small and public. A community-centered gym transformed with fabric and flowers and tables built by teenagers from the co-op. I wasn't invited, and why would I be? I saw it through everyone else's photos. The way her sari glowed like sunlight filtered through leaves, the way his tie was crooked on purpose because he said perfect gives him hives, the way the ring exchange looked like two people choosing a practice they were already good at. Every caption said the same thing in different words: everyone adores her. I keep telling myself I'm happy for him because it is the right sentence and I want to be a person who likes right sentences, not just performs them. Sometimes I am. Sometimes I am not. I have learned there are consequences that stick even when everyone forgives you. I have learned that you cannot compete with a woman who is not competing with you. Only with her last version. And that men like Nathan know the difference between noise and signal. People ask why my relationship ended and I used to say we were different because it's cleaner. The truth is messier and, I suspect, more useful to someone younger who might hear it in time. I tried to make a good man small so I could feel big. I confused restraint with weakness and patience with passivity. I mistook my volume for value. When I said he wasn't man enough for me, I meant I wasn't mature enough for him. The world did not punish me, it simply moved on without me into rooms where respect is the minimum, not a reward. Now I live a quieter life on purpose. I RSVP yes to family things even when I'm embarrassed because my shame is not a ticket to skip the parts that matter. I bring folding tables when someone forgets to rent them. I carry folding scissors in my bag and hope someone needs ribbon cut. I don't know if anyone adores me. I know a few people trust me more than they used to, which is better and slower. Last week, I saw Nathan and Priya at the market. He was comparing tomatoes, she was counting cash into the farm stand jar because their card reader was down and she had the right amount exactly. We said hello. We were three adults in a world that didn't bend to accommodate my regret. As they walked away, a little boy from the clinic shouted, "Miss Priya," and ran into her legs, and she crouched to his level and listened to his entire story about a bike bell like it was a TED Talk. Nathan waited, one hand steadying the basket, the other balancing the bunch of basil. I watched them and realized the sentence I'd been avoiding because it doesn't make for a viral caption but it might save someone's life. Being a good man is not about volume. It's about the quiet work of being safe to love. He was. She is. I wasn't. Now he's married to a woman everyone adores, and the part that stings the most isn't their happiness, it's knowing I could have learned this lesson from him the easy way. I chose the hard one. I said the line. He believed me. And then he built a life where no one ever has to make him small to feel big.